May I request all the members to take your seats and settle down. May I call upon the members onto the dais. To begin with, Professor Sudhakar Reddy sir, Organizing Secretary. Next, I would call upon Professor S. Srinivasmurthy sir, Director IP, and Professor D.K. Madan, Secretary IEA, Professor Dulci Brunda Vardarajan, President IEA, Professor N.K. Singh. There are distinguished guests, Professor Dhananjay Singh, and visionary leader, Professor Kumar Molguram sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor. Call upon Dr. Shamika Ravi, President of the occasion, Professor M. Ramlu sir. Okay, we did have a bit of a logistics in getting this thing done. We also welcome Tirupati Rao sir and a lot of other senior teachers from the economics department, and people come across the country. It's a very distinguished afternoon to this luminous galaxy of intellectuals, policymakers and scholars. Today we stand at a monumental crossroads where the century of heritage meets a century of vision. We are gathered for a historic confluence, the 108-year legacy of Osmania University, a bastion of knowledge, birthed in 1917, unites with the 108th annual conference of the Indian Economic Association. It is profound to note that at this university, that legacy evolves. Under the visionary theme of Vikasat Bharat at the rate 2047, this conference transcends economic discourse. It serves as a strategic laboratory forging the blueprints for India's journey towards a developed nation. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be your host for this prestigious inaugural session as we script the next chapter of India's economic story. I have the privilege of inviting our esteemed luminaries to grace the dais. And first I request Ms. Anita, our student from MA, to welcome Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy sir with a floral bouquet. Quickly, ma. Said Anita. Whoever's there, please. Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy sir is the Dean of Social Sciences. He's a distinguished economist and a senior academic with decades of experience in teaching, research and academic administration. He has served as Senior Professor of Economics at Osmania University and currently the Dean Faculty of Social Sciences. He also serves as the Director ICSSR SRC Hyderabad. Then I request Karunashri to welcome Professor S. Srinivasmurthy sir, Director IP with a floral bouquet. Professor S. Srinivasmurthy is the Director and Professor of Finance at the Institute of Public Enterprise with nearly 3 decades of experience in academia, research and consultancy. A highly decorated academic with PhD in finance, he has authored 15 books, conducted over 100 MDPs and served as consultant for prestigious organizations like World Bank and Asian Development Bank. Now I call upon Lahari to give a floral bouquet to Professor D.K. Madan, who was the Secretary of IEA. Professor D.K. Madan is Professor of Economics and former Dean, International Affairs and Head School of Social Sciences, Punjabi University, Patiala. His areas of research is international economic relations, particularly South Asia and development economics. He's got more than 98 research papers and there for the Asian Foundation, ICSR and National Highways Authority of India. Currently the Secretary of the Indian Economic Association. Then I call upon Juanita to welcome Professor Dulci Brunda Vardarajan, President of IEA. Ma'am is a distinguished economist and senior fellow of the ICSSR, New Delhi, with over 33 years of university-level teaching experience, a former senior professor and chairperson of School of Economics at Madurai Kamaraj University. She's a prolific researcher specializing in climate finance, sustainable development and environmental policy. Now I would request Pujita to welcome Sri N.K. Singh, a very important guest of honor. Guest of honor is a legendary statesman and a reformer. Sri N.K. Singh is the chairperson of the 15th Finance Commission, is a prominent Indian economist, academician and policymaker. He is currently president of the Institute of Economic Growth, New Delhi, and was also the Honorable Member of Parliament, India during 2008 and 14, and the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission. Earlier, he presided as chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee as well. Now I request Vasudha to welcome in our midst Professor Dhananjay Singh. Sir is a distinguished scholar and administrator, currently serving as Member Secretary of ICSSR and Professor at JNU, an alumnus with a gold medal. He has held key leadership roles including Chief Proctor and Chairperson. He specializes in Indian poetics, aesthetics and comparative philosophy. Now it's time to invite our Chief Patron and Visionary Leader of Osmania University, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Kumar Molguram sir. Request Sumant to welcome sir with a floral bouquet. Senior Professor Kumar Molguram is the 26th Vice Chancellor of Osmania University, an IIT Mumbai alumnus, and he's an eminent leader with nearly 30 years of excellence in civil engineering and the recipient of Engineer of the Year and State Meritorious Teacher Awards, and pioneered digital transformation and academic reforms across key roles as Dean and Principal, and he specializes in transportation. Let's turn to go about with welcoming in our midst the President of the occasion, Dr. Shamika Ravi. May I request Vasudha to welcome ma'am with a floral bouquet. She's a member of the EAC to the Prime Minister. Dr. Shamika Ravi is a conference president and member of EAC of the Prime Minister. She is a prominent Indian economist and currently serves as a member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. She is also known for her extensive research and expertise in public policy, economics and governance. She holds a PhD in economics and been actively involved in academic and policy circles. And another distinction Sudhakar sir asked me to remind is she's the daughter of His Excellency Dr. Ravi, who's the Governor of Tamil Nadu. It's time for me to invite Professor M. With the dais now complete, may I request all the dignitaries on the dais to light the lamp and invoke the divine presence in our midst. I request all the members. Shruti, can you have your yama? Yeah. Yeah, lighting the lamp signifies the dispelling of darkness and the triumph of knowledge. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya.
That was some mellifluous singing from Shruti. You can put your hands together for this little girl. Okay, as we stand to our feet, I request the organizers to play the Telangana song.
जय जय हे तेलंगाण जननी जय केतनं मुक्कोटि गोंतुकलु ఒక్కటైన చేతనం తరతరాల చరితగల తల్లి నీ రాజనం 10 జిల్లాల నీ పిల్లలు ప్రణమిల్లిన శుభ తరుణం జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ పోతనది పురిటి గడ్డ రుద్రమది వీరగడ్డ గండర గండడు కుమరం భీముడే నీ బిడ్డ కాకతీయ కళా ప్రబల కాంతి రేఖ రామప్ప గోలుకొండ నవాబుల గొప్ప వెలుగే చార్మినారు జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ జానపద జనజీవన జావలీలు జాలువారు కవి గాయక వైతాళిక కలల మంజీరాలు జాతిని జాగృత పరిచే గీతాల జనజాతర అను నిత్యం నీ గానం అమ్మ నీవే మా ప్రాణం జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ జై తెలంగాణ జై జై తెలంగాణ.
I have heard recorded versions of this, but it could have not been better. What Shruti has done a wonderful way of rendering the Telangana song. Now, with the blessings of knowledge, we proceed with the formal messages. I request Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy sir to give us the welcome address.
Very good evening all. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, of the dais. It's an honor and a privilege to welcome everyone to the 108th Annual Conference of Indian Economic Association, hosted by Department of Economics and co-sponsored by Institute of Public Enterprises. Since founding in 1917, Indian Economic Association has been India's most respected long-standing platform for promoting economic research, critical inquiry, and policy discussions. We are honored by the gracious presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Kumar, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Osmania University, whose academic leadership and unwavering support have been crucial in enabling Osmania University to host this prestigious national conference. His dedication to academic excellence, research, institutional growth has greatly strengthened the university engagement with national and global scholar communities. Friends, delegates, he has got a lot of persuasive skills with his persuasive skills and with academic leadership. Very recently, Osmania City has been announced by Government of Telangana 1,000 crores. It's the first of its history of all the universities. Also, pleased to welcome Dr. D.K. Madan, Secretary, and Professor Tulsi Brinda Varadarajan, President of Indian Economic Association, whose leadership continues to maintain association academic rigor and diversity. It's my pleasure to welcome Professor Srinivasmurthy, Director, Institute of Public Enterprises, whose visionary and leadership has significantly strengthened Institute's academic excellence, policy relevance. Under the stewardship of his stewardship, IP has expanded its research footprint, deepened industry and the government engagement, and enhanced its role in capacity building, public sector and government reforms. I extend a warm welcome to all the delegates across India, economists, researchers, administrators, students whose participation gives this conference its intellectual This 108 annual conference has a policy relevance and academic imperatives. The theme of this conference really blends with Viksit Bharat at 2047, its pathways to the developed nation. This theme is not only just aspirational and also but analytically challenging. As India approaches centenary independence, the development challenge is no longer just about attaining high growth rates, but also about ensuring structural transformation is one of our sub-themes, and productive employment, regional balance, and fiscal sustainability and environmental resilience. The conference sub-themes are like structural changes, modernization of India's economy, tariff war, a new era in the global trade, Indian knowledge system beyond text, economy of Telangana is a model for inclusive and sustainable growth, digital transformation, innovation, and the future work. Together, these themes align with the national policy priorities, including Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, cooperative federalism, sustainable development, emphasizing the importance of evidence-based institutional and grounded policy making. Over the next 3 decades, more than 300 delegates will participate in the plenary sessions, technical sessions, policy dialogues, and paper presentations. I am confident these discussions will produce rigorous research and policy relevant insights, valuable debates, ultimately enriching academic literature and policy process. I particularly welcome Professor Sri M.K. Singh, 15th Finance Commission Chairman. Definitely with your participation enhanced the quality and the prestige of Indian Economic Association. And the Member Secretary ICSSR, Professor Dhananjay Singh, whose participation definitely also added a lot of importance to this IEA conference. With his leadership qualities, social science research transformed totally. There is a qualitative and quantitative changes which have taken place at ICSR level. We have been, as academicians, witnessing this. So it's a quantum jump in its projects, programs, and all. Really, sir, in spite of your busy schedule, able to attend, we have got a lot of affection towards Southern Regional Center. As a resultantly, you could able to come with a very great difficulty. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Dr. Shamkar Ravi. Really, majority of the participants all inquiring about you. They are very, very eagerly waiting for your speech. Definitely, it's going to enthrall everyone listening to you this IEA conference. I welcome you one and all for this wonderful conference. Thank you all giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. That sets the tone for the 3 days conference that we're going to have here. I think there's a slight change in the sequence in which we are asking the members to speak. We would have Sri N.K. Singh, sir, the guest of honor, to give his message because he has to take his flight. Chief guest of this occasion. So I'm sorry that I've been reminded in a different way. Please, sir. So you prefer standing here or it's there? You prefer standing here? Standing? Yeah, go ahead, sir, please. All yours.
Yeah, I know it's fine. I'll adjust. Yes. Good afternoon to all of you. To all of you who have waited with a degree of patience and tolerance for the somewhat delayed start of this inaugural session. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Kumar Volgam, distinguished members of the Indian Economic Association, many other distinguished members and eminent economists, to Shamika, who has worked with me very closely over a long period, and to other many distinguished academics who are here. Of course, I've also recognized the presence of Mr. Ajay Seth, the chairman of the Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, who was India's former finance secretary, has worked with multilateral institutions to shape India's economic reform strategy. It is my privilege to be with you at the Osmania University, one of India's oldest public universities, and a historic center for scholarship and learning. I'm equally privileged to address this inaugural session of the 108th Annual Conference of the Indian Economic Association. I'll make some broad observations on a range of subjects. I want to make, for instance, the general point that as we bid goodbye to 2025 and at the cusp of the new year, it is natural to reflect on the past, not the immediate past, but its evolution with a touch of nostalgia. Let me talk a bit at the beginning about India, East Asia, and China. It needs no repetition that India and China, till 1950, were similar in economic size. The oft-quoted Angus Madison, the great economic historian, estimated India's GDP at 222 billion and China's at 239 billion. In fact, this continued till much, much later. And indeed, even up to 1980, they remained close. However, look at the irony, that till 1980, they were nearly close to each other. However, by 2023, China's per capita income was roughly 5.5 times of India. The explanation is not merely simply authoritarian efficiency. We should not draw false conclusions on a hiatus between democracy and development. Indeed, the recent performance of the Indian economy, and I'm sure Shavika will talk more about this, the recent performance of the Indian economy, particularly over the last few years, strongly suggests that democracy and development are not inimical, but they are symmetrical. At the function on the conferment of the honorary fellowship on me by the London School of Economics 2 years ago, the theme of my lecture at the London School was the theme that the hiatus between democracy and development is a false hiatus. India's example should put the last nail on this coffin of those who are seeking an asymmetry between democracy and development. If we look at policy choices, models of development, and institutional design over a long period, trade, for instance, shows this sharply. India's share of world trade fell from 2.2% in 1948 to just 0.5% by 1990. During the same period, South Korea moved to become the 33rd largest, Taiwan from 28th place in 65 to 10th place in 1956. These economies, what did they do? They treated foreign exchange not as a source, exports not as a source of mere foreign exchange, but as basic to economic growth. This led to vast improvements in logistics, in skill, in technology, and of course governance. In sharp contrast, what did the Indian policymakers do? Given their mindset, they treated trade as something to be rationed, not expanded through enhanced competitiveness. The Asian tigers liberalized their economies early. South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore lacked large domestic markets unlike us. Import substitution exhausted itself very quickly. Survival required exports, foreign capital, and rapid integration with the global economy. China adopted the same policy from after 1978. We know that the agricultural reforms in China, along the lines which we understand, making a large availability of surplus agricultural labor into a production strategy at wage rates, which to say the least were exceedingly competitive. China grew between 78 to 89 at about 9.5% annually, enabling nearly 180 people to come out of extreme poverty. In 1980, India's foreign exchange reserves exceeded 7 billion. China's was just 2.55 billion. Yet, a decade later, India was at a default. China continued its upward trajectory. India's early strategy was shaped by history, by colonial exploitation, the urgency of nation building, weak domestic industry, and most importantly, fear of external interference. This fear shaped our industrial policy. Indeed, the industrial policy resolution of both 1948 and 1956 resulted in reservations of strategic sectors exclusively for state outlays. This did deliver gains. Manufacturing sector to GDP went up from 17.5, significantly bigger than what it was earlier. India's import dependencies for capital goods fell, but India missed the opportunity for efficiency and capacity. It was capacity without competitiveness. Protected markets, trained firms, and I say this with slight tongue-in-cheek, protected markets, trained firms to master files, not master markets. Entrepreneurs learned the art of licensing, first the barriers and the ease of overcoming the licensing regime, not innovation. The state, on the other hand, learned the wrong lessons of administering scarcity. The first issue, therefore, we must ponder is why did India pursue policies which did not replicate the growth patterns of the much earlier Asian tigers or even later China? Does the answer lie in what some economists, like my very good friend Arvind Pangaria, the chairman of the 16th Finance Commission, calls the Nehru model or development? This answers some questions, but not all questions. The lure of Fabian socialism took multiple forms. Post-independence, our trade strategy, external vulnerability did increase. We did seek rapid transformation, but institutions we built feared change, not fostered change. Planning and licensing, we use instruments to control capacity, to control technology, and even producers. Scarcity justified controls, controls produced more scarcity. So the real question is, why India, as such a large economy, and given our scale, missed all these opportunities? Why for decades, for instance, we accepted these constraints and permitted weaknesses in our competitiveness? The lesson is simple. When reserves evaporate, policy autonomy narrows further. A strong external position is also a reflection of flexibility and sovereignty. Why did we allow things to drift for so long? Why were the lessons that rudely woke us up much earlier not learned earlier? What prevented us, for instance, from learning from the performance of the East Asia and indeed even our neighborhood? These are issues we need to reflect on carefully. My second point is about multilaterals and the push for institutional reform. India's first engagement with the International Monetary Fund was way back in 1960 and later in the 1980s. Why did we miss the opportunities? In 1966 and then in 1980, we know that between 1980 and 1966, India did run a trade and fiscal deficit. Aid did flow, just about to fill the gap in our balance of payments. Why, after the 1957 balance of payments crisis, India rejected explicitly devaluation and choosing instead to chase controls, quantitative restrictions, replaced price adjustments, imports were rationed, exports were subsidized, incentives were distorted. In 1968, when aid was cut off, India devalued in 1966. A story so brilliantly told by my very good friend, late T.N. Srinivasan, and by someone who also taught me, late I.G. Patel, in their two brilliant autobiographies on the drama which surrounded the Indian economy when it took the difficult decision for devaluation. Exchange rate alerts, then and even now, became a statement on sovereignty. Exchange rates did not reflect market economics, but became a statement on nations' sovereignties. In 1991, in 1981, for instance, when the crisis came, India resorted to the maximum borrowing of 5.8 billion from the International Monetary Fund, securing a big SDR. It repaid the loan early. Instead of fiscal consolidation and structural reforms, instead, we doubled down on external borrowing. Before I come to the 1991 crisis, and since Ajay Seth is here along with many other eminent economists, we know that one of the founding members of the International Monetary Fund was India. Article 4 consultations is mandatory, which we know, for all member states. What happened to these Article 4 consultations? What kind of an analysis and recommendations did the Article 4 consultations result in? Were they so tepid? Were they so meaningless? Why did they fail to trigger any policy action? Was the political milieu, for instance, if I were to ask this question, embedded so deeply in false socialism, such and so much in a centrally planned thinking, so deeply entrenched that whatever prescriptions Article 4 consultations may have been made did not trigger policy action. Of course, in 1991, we know the reform process in which I was personally so deeply involved, did result at a time when our reserves had fallen to just 1.2 billion in January of 1991. By June, it fell to 1 billion. The fiscal deficit had risen from 5.6 to 8.1 billion in 1991. Interest rate payments and percentage of interest rates as part of GDP had gone up. We pledged gold. Post 66, lending policies of IMF and World Bank had changed, which we know through cross conditionalities. So we concentrated both on macroeconomic and structural reforms. These reforms were undertaken in 91. On the 4th of July 91, the Commerce Minister unraveled the export far-reaching changes in export policy. On 24th July the same year, the Finance Minister had undertaken major structural reforms in India's entire licensing regimes. These were not incremental. These were systemic changes. The issue, even in 1991, is why we failed to undertake the full structural reforms which were needed, and instead just about did what was necessary to get out of that balance payments crisis. On an anecdotal note, and since I was involved personally in these negotiations, let me tell you a little story. I recall that during those negotiations in 1991, one of the important executive directors of the IMF, name was Burnt Goose, remarked to me on an aside that India was a big tiger, a tiger which had chosen to engage itself for long. It had injured itself, had just come out, and is beginning to roam about freely. His fear was that if we do not undertake those structural reforms and complete the full agenda of the 1991 reforms, his fear was India, wounds when they are healed, might go back to their cage and go to sleep again with complacency for a long, long time to come. That remark deeply left a deep imprint on my mind. But at that moment, that was not the milieu to complete the economic reforms. For instance, why did you overlook the reforms or the factors of production, land, labor, capital, issues which are haunting us till today. This was because we chose to walk away as soon as our wounds were healed, as predicted by that German economist and that German scholar. Fabian socialist traditions were too embedded, perhaps, to foster these radical changes. Yes, we did take subsequent very important steps. All successive governments thereafter made their own contribution. I recall that working with Prime Minister Vajpayee at that time, we had taken far-reaching reforms in the telecom sector, in the road sector, in many other segments of the economy, including the enactment of for the first time of the Fiscal Responsibility Management Act in 2003. Information technology, in its widest form, has left a far-reaching imprint on our society, which will enable India to harness technology more meaningfully in a manner which combines the gains of productivity with the gains of more predictable sources of continuing employment. The third point is India's fiscal matrix over time has improved dramatically. Post-COVID, and Ajay was there at that time, fiscal deficit, which had risen to 9.2%, did fall to 5.6% in 23-24. Even public debt, which had climbed to 89% of GDP in 2020, fell to about 82% in 24-25. Over a period of time, we have done well. Per capita increase, which used to be just 2%, is now 6 to 7% since 2004. The latest quarterly estimates suggest, and Shamika would know this very well, an 8.2% increase in GDP. We have outpaced both emerging markets and advanced economies. The big question before us, therefore, is how do we sustain this level of growth, and how do we sustain this for the next 2 to 3 decades, which is crucial to achieving the overall and overarching theme of this conference, a Viksit Bharat, as was pointed out. I would say 6 things. First, macroeconomic stability lies at the intersection of economic institutions and political realism. Fiscal discipline in a federal polity is never easy, especially one embedded in democracy. Let me make an anecdotal point. I had to deal with these issues deliberating on the recommendations of the FRBM in 2003, and then when I had the privilege to chair the second FRBM committee in 2017, whose recommendations were accepted by Parliament. If the 2003 FRBM Act brought about a change in the parameters of all states, each state government enacted their own FRBM Act. There were some laggard states, like West Bengal and Sikkim, who were hesitant in the beginning, but later on went on to enact similar FRBM Acts. Focusing, therefore, what is important, and the finance minister has said so day before yesterday, that the next theme of our big reforms will be the debt anchor. Debt as a principal macroeconomic anchor. How do we make debt a macroeconomic anchor, not merely for the central government, which is important. Ajay was there when that famous statement was made in the last budget, that the central government would achieve by 2031 51% of debt to GDP. This is a notable achievement. But what about the states? The world does not look in a disaggregated way between central government and state government. They look at India's overall debt position and how do we achieve this? How do we, for instance, persuade the states that along the lines of what they did earlier in 2003 and following the enactment of the revised FRBM Act in 2017, they too enact an act making debt as a principal macroeconomic anchor. The finance minister therefore said that the central government in the forthcoming budget would focus on debt. Can the state governments replicate this? What mechanisms exist, if any, within the bounds of federal autonomy, which would be appropriate to align the macroeconomic policies of the states with the macroeconomic policies of the central government? Can we create an institutional mechanism which examines the debt and the fiscal policy of India as a whole and not disaggregated India? Second is no-brainer, I've said so earlier, completing the reforms of the factors of production to make India a genuinely competitive investment destination. Those of us who are engaged in the task of trying to harness investments in India have often heard this tongue-in-cheek remark, look here, India is a costly place to do business. How do we improve the competitiveness of India as an investment destination? Part of the answer lies, of course, in completing the reforms of these factors of production. And each one of them deserve close attention. Cost of labor, cost of capital, and the cost of all the attending regulatory uncertainties. The third, which is connected with the first, we know that growth outcomes are not only a product of investment savings ratio, as is often argued. This is now somewhat debatable, since household savings are increasingly spread across multiple assets. And connected with this is something on which we should focus much more. How do we improve India's incremental capital output ratio? What's I-Core? I-Core in India for far too long has remained and hung at around 5. Charan, who is here, would know this, is doing a lot of work on this. I-Core has hung at around only at 5. It has improved in the last few years to 4.5, but that's inadequate. We must push the total factor productivity in I-Core to improve to say around 3% in the medium term. Fourth, how do we improve foreign investment? India recorded 81 billion or direct foreign investment in 24-25, but the net outflows remain volatile and are below peer group countries. India's net inward flow is just 0.7%, when even other countries, not necessarily the most competitive ones, on an average would have 3 to 4% of foreign direct investment as a great push to the investment record. So how do we raise India's ability to harness in a meaningful way direct foreign investment? Fifth, on manufacturing, jobs and technology. Manufacturing share remains 16 to 7%, 17% for nearly 2 decades. The binding constraint is scale. We have too many small firms, too many mid-sized exporters. Artificial intelligence and automation only widen the gaps between firms, but can we adopt technology which we control in a manner where it overall improves the productive efficiency of the economy? Finally, on climate and resilience. Renewables are now much cheaper, we know that. When you use fossil fuel, which we use from coal, they are more expensive than renewable energies are. Yet, fragmented regulation and grid bottlenecks continue to dampen the pace of the adoption of cheaper forms of renewable energy. India's carbon market, which we launched in 2023, is the beginning, will begin from 2026, and can support competitiveness and can reduce 45% emission by 2030. Price signals must deepen. With about 200 gigawatts of installed renewable capacity and a target which we have of 500 gigawatts by 2030, we must streamline approvals, strengthen grids, fix DISCOM finances to reach the goal of net zero by 2070. Let me conclude. In conclusion, I ask myself the question, where do you go from here? Having reflected on these episodes over a long period of time, we have some lessons which we must draw. First, democracy and development are compatible, are symmetrical. Human freedom can be harmonized with sustained economic growth. This is a lesson which India can teach the world. There is no monetary value in which the scale of human freedom can be weighed or assigned. To combine the virtues of human freedom with the virtues of economic growth is a lesson not only which India can teach, but can be a front runner in this regard. Second, as I have said, we must continue our resolve to fortify macro stability. Third, we must mainstream states into the discipline through incentives and consequences that reward prudence and that discourages profligacy. Rewards prudence and discourages profligacy. Investors watch the general government, not a disaggregated form of center in the states. Fourth, how do we work on improving total factor productivity and lowering the incremental capital output ratio along with this? The new labor code will require cooperation between center and states. Capital needs deeper intermediation to improve the efficiency and the cost of capital, more competition, and a greater presence of both not only public but private sector banks in the area of financial intermediation. Land needs clearer availability of titles, predictable processes, and supported by land banks with a fair valuation. If there is one message I would leave behind with you, it is this. And we turn back to what we have learnt as students of economics, often to John Maynard Keynes, and I quote from him. And Keynes said, "The difficulty lies not in new ideas, but escaping from the old ideas. Can we escape from the shadows of Fabian socialism to fully embrace these new ideas, these new challenges, and these new opportunities? India's democracy may be slow to reform, but it can deepen legitimacy far more if a consensus is built around performance than promises. We must move away from celebrating potential to demanding delivery, from managing scarcity to enabling abundance, from partial reforms to complete institutional ecosystem. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish the 108th annual conference every success. Thank you very much.
Truly, it was a very inspiring message and insights of his experience, which he had shared, and the audience was spellbound. We can do a better job by putting our hands together to appreciate the experience that he has shared, and to ensure that we don't let go, sir, without releasing a souvenir which would be inaugurated for this occasion. May I request the organizers to first give the souvenir, then the abstract, and all the members on the days would release first the souvenir, then the abstract for this 108th conference. Kindly do the honors by releasing the abstract as well, quickly. Okay. Can you get this first book also? Singh sir, there's also a request to release a book by the organizing secretary, which is Envisioning Telangana 2047, Journey Towards a USD 3 trillion economy by Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy and Dr. Mallikarjuna Naik Vadite. This book presents a long-term economic vision of Telangana, outlining pathways to achieve a $3 trillion economy 2047. It integrates innovation-driven growth, inclusive development, and sustainability, offering policy insights on governance, human capital infrastructure, and regional balance aligned with India's Vikasat Bharat vision. May I request Professor Arunachalam sir from IEA to come over to the dais. Arunachalam, we'll request the executive members in a moment. I request first Arunachalam sir to, all the executive members of IEA also to come over to do a short felicitation to Professor Singh. Yes.
On behalf of Indian Economic Association, Professor Arunachalam will honor Shri N.K. Singh ji, our chief guest.
The EC members also want to felicitate sir. We request our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir to give a memento as a token of gratitude to Professor Singh. Yeah, I request the members on the dais to arrange yourselves so that all are visible for the pictures.
All EC members have to come.
The stage is falling small. Thank you. Thanks to all the members and would immensely thanks Sri N.K. Singh sir.
He has to leave now.
Yeah. Sir would be leaving because he has to take his flight. Continue with it. Yes. I request members to settle down as we continue with the rest of the inaugural program. It's time for me to invite Can we put our hands together once again to give a warm send-off to Sri N.K. Singh ji? Yeah, we'll continue with the flow of the program, and without much ado, I request senior seasoned finance teacher, who's a director of Institute of Public Enterprise, Professor S. Srinivas Murthy sir, to give us director's note. Please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Let us pay respects to all our gurus, because of whose selfless efforts and blessings we are all in this position today. Saint Tyagaraja said, Endaro Mahanubhavulu Andaraki Vandanam. We have so many great people on the dais today, off the dais, so our respects to all these great people. At the outset, I would like to compliment the Indian Economic Association for coming out with this conference on a very important theme. I welcome Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Professor Kumar Mulugurangaru, Professor Dhananjay Singh, Member Secretary, Indian Council of Social Science Research, Sri N.K. Singh, Chairman, 15th Finance Commission, President, Indian Economic Growth, New Delhi, Professor D.B. Varadarajan, Associate President, Indian Economic Association, Madam Dr. Shamika Ravi, Member, Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister, Government of India, New Delhi, Professor D.K. Madan, Secretary, Indian Economic Association, Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy, Local Organizing Secretary and Director at ICSR Southern Region, and distinguished invitees, paper presenters, and all the participants. The Institute of Public Enterprise is pleased to associate with the Economics Department of Osmania University and also the Indian Economic Association in organizing this 108th annual conference. IP was started in the year 1964, mainly to help the public sector enterprises to meet their training, research and consultancy requirements. It is an ICSR funded institution thanks to Professor Dhananjay Singh Ji, Member Secretary, for providing all support to the Institute of Public Enterprise. IP has now 6 full-time programs, PGM programs with student intake of total 1,100 on the campus. And IP considers helping other academic institutions as an important responsibility. We are talking about Viksit Bharat. India is the 4th largest economy now. It has to become 3rd largest economy by 2047. So IP, from its part as ICSR funded institution, is doing academic social responsibility. We have signed MOUs with 50 government colleges, universities, private universities, and we are trying to help these institutions in upskilling the faculty members. We are conducting free faculty development programs in various government colleges, universities, in the areas where they require training for the faculty. When you talk about Viksit Bharat, we have to provide the skilled youth to the industry. Industry is looking for skilled youth, looking for the growth. It is the responsibility of the higher education institutions to provide the skilled youth. NEP 2020 talks about that only. So IP has trained more than 10,000 faculty members in the area of artificial intelligence and all the emerging areas free of cost. And we'd like to continue this journey so that India will successfully reach the target of Viksit Bharat 2047. We have been also conducting free student development programs to make the students ready to occupy the positions in the industry. So all of us have to work together to make Viksit Bharat possible. At every stage, individuals, organizations, institutions have to work together. We are fortunate that we are in a time where our government has given us the vision 2047. It is very clear to us that we have to achieve that vision by 2047 when India completes 100 years. And every institution, every organization, every state has to work towards that. This particular conference is in that direction conducted, talks about the various areas through which we can reach the target. With these few words, once again, I welcome all the dignitaries and wish the conference a success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time to get to the vision of IEA. May I request Professor D.K. Madan to deliver his address.
Esteemed Dr. Shamika Ravi, our Honorable Conference President and Member Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister, Professor Kumar Molugaram, Vice Chancellor, Osmania University, Professor Dulasi Verdarajan, Association President, Indian Economic Association, our distinguished guest, Professor Dhananjay Singh Ji, Member Secretary, Indian Council of Social Science Research, my friend, Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy, Local Organizing Secretary, and Professor Murthy, Director IPE, my friend Professor Ramulu, Deputy Local Organizing Secretary. I welcome to all the dignitaries of the dais and on the dais, my friends of Indian Economic Association, those who have come from around 27 states of India. I was just counting that one. I welcome to all of you from the heart of this Indian Economic Association. I am very much thankful to our esteemed Professor Charan Singh Ji, Professor N.K. Taneja Ji, Shri Ajay Seth Ji, Professor V.N. Attri Ji, my Professor T. Tirupati Rao Ji, Chancellor, Manipur University, my all executive committee members from different states, especially our joint secretaries, Professor Sanju Karol, Professor Arunachalam, Dr. Anirban Sarkar, and EC members, Professor C. Muthuraja, Professor Harsh Gandhar from Chandigarh, Professor Rekha Acharya from Indore, Professor Kamaljeet Kaur, Treasurer from Chandigarh, Professor Chidamai, heading the Madras School of Economics, Madras University, and many friends from Visakhapatnam, from our local EC member from Telangana, Professor Raja Mohan Rao, from Gujarat, our Professor B.M. Jani, Professor B. Biswas from Kolkata. So all, even from Maharashtra, we have Professor Vinayak Deshpande, Professor Anuradha Patnaik. From UP, we have Professor Sanjeev Kumar Ji, Professor Karnakar Ji. So I welcome to all the delegates, EC members, for coming in this event by not taking too much time, because already we have taken too much time. So here just I want to mention that this 108th conference, that is also old as per the age of this university, because this university was established in 1917 and our IA was also established on the same year. So 108 year is a very lucky number, and that's why I invited 2 times earlier Professor N.K. Singh Ji, Shri N.K. Singh Ji, but unfortunately in Surat he could not come, in last time also in Bhopal he could not come, he gave online lecture, but this is the first time he came here physically and delivered a lecture. I'm very happy on this one. This conference, that is also very much important and lucky for this university, because with this planning of this conference, university also got 1,000 crore rupee. That is a very huge amount. I congratulate to Vice Chancellor in this regard. And this IA is historically very old body, as I told, and many scholars, many academicians, they were heading that one. I am happy that now our conference president, Dr. Shamika Ravi ji, she is giving a new line to this association because she told me that whatsoever you are doing, you should come in books also, in policy also. So I request this time, and we will contribute in the policy of the government, whatsoever that we, and we will help the government under the leadership of Dr. Shamika Ravi. I am thankful because more than 300 delegates have registered for this conference, and especially I am thankful to our local organizing secretary, Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy, because he cooperated, and our friends from South, they also did a lot of work, especially Professor Nachalam. I am especially thankful to him. So I really hope to see these discussions in the coming 3 days that will bring new policy initiatives for the government. So here, just with the 2 lines, I end my speech. That is, कसूर उनका नहीं हमारा था, हमने चाहा ही था कि उनको गरूर हो गया. Once again I repeat, कसूर उनका नहीं हमारा था, हमने चाहा ही इतना था कि उनको गरूर हो गया. Thank you very much.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद D.K. Madan sir. Now I request Professor Tulsi Brinda Vardarajan ma'am to bring a message to the audience.
Good afternoon to all of you. I am very happy to be in this campus because I am associated with this campus for more than 40 years. And I used to come to this university, very reputed university. And I welcome the dignitaries on the dais as well as off the dais. And also I invited you, the participants. You are more important. And this IAI is very much concerned about the scholars' growth. What is the speciality of this wing, IAA wing? We used to invite the policy makers, the topmost people, like Dr. Shamika Ravi and Dr. Dhananjayan Singh and Singh, who gave you the lecture, very beautiful lecture. And all others, we invited the policy makers so that you can understand how far your research is on par with the policy makers' decision. Your findings, how will it will help these strategies they are going to frame. So that is our major aim of this conference, especially inviting the young scholars, and this is a platform for you to share with your research findings and other research and whatever the recommendation and strategies you are framing. So how far it will be implemented for the welfare of the Indian economy. So the topic of the conference, you all know that this Viksit Bharat, then structural changes, and also the tariff war, and the traditional knowledge. I need not explain each and everything because you are more than understanding because you had done your research on these topics. And you came here for your research topics, and you are motivated to present paper, and also you are motivating your young scholars to present the papers in this wonderful conference. Okay? So we can understand the glimpses of these issues from the topmost policy makers who had come here all the way from Delhi and other places. and we must be keen to listen them. So what is going on? The Viksit Bharat at 2047 in India. We have to understand that. So this conference will facilitate you. And also the structural change. So it is evident. So the economy is transforming from the industrial sector to this agriculture sector to straight away to the service sector. So some of the scholars have identified where is this manufacturing sector role. What happened? So this kind of hypothesis you might have framed in your research, and you will be coming here that to explain all those things. And also in the global world, how this tariff war is taking place. How the developing economy are tortured, I can use this word, tortured by the developed countries. And how our own tax structure, tariff structure would benefit the local manufacturers and local exporters. And earlier speaker was talking about this import substitution and all. So whether we are having that kind of import substitution, whether it has developed, and all these things we have to understand from the policy makers. Okay? And also the traditional knowledge. We had totally forgotten our traditional knowledge. So this conference had opened you to come with your experiences of traditional knowledge. And moreover, I must thank the local secretary, very vibrant person, and he is very particular about the Telangana economy. And the whole India is also, they are eager to hear about the Telangana economy. So he had arranged a special session, and he had invited so many experts of the Telangana economy. Not only the Telangana people, we the people are highly interested, all over India are interested what is happening in Telangana economy. So this session will be a vibrant session, and so whether Telangana is a model for the whole India. So we will listen to that. So all these subjects are very pertinent to understand where is our Indian economy in the world map. Okay? So with this, we have framed all these topics, and I must highly thankful to the Vice Chancellor of this university, having offered us the place for this conference, because nowadays it is not very easy to find a place, no? So the Vice Chancellor had accepted, and he had extended all kinds of help to us. And I should also thank Dr. Sudhakar Reddy, who is also my friend, and he is day and night, he is going here and there and looking after all the facilities for you, and first he had accepted to host this conference. So that is a very big thing on our part. On behalf of the IEA member and executive members, family, I am highly thankful, sir, for having given us the place to host, to conduct this conference. So all these things, then I may fail if I not thank the participants all over the India. You have travelled some are, they have come with your family also. They have travelled very long distance. And you kindly consider, if at all any difficulties, you kindly consider, because it's very difficult to host any conference, no? Any conference or seminar nowadays. The first thing is fund crunch. Fund crunch is there, and it's very difficult to get money from any organizations. And so you please consider, if at all any difficulties in the stay or any other things, you kindly consider this. With these few words, I am highly thankful all of you, Thank you, one and again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words of encouragement to the scholars and your concern for Telangana and the words that you had towards the organizing secretary and the empathy to the participants who have come across the country there. Now it's time for us to listen to the Member Secretary of ICSSR New Delhi, Professor Dhananjay Singh, sir.
Please, please. Professor Shamika Raviji, Honorable Member, Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, Government of India, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Osmania University, Professor Kumar Molugaram, Shri N.K. Singh Ji, Chairman, 15th Finance Commission and President, Institute of Economic Growth, New Delhi, Professor Sudhakar Reddy, Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy, the local organizing secretary and director, ICSR Southern Region of Hyderabad, Professor S. Srinivas Murthy, director, IPE, OU Campus, Professor D.K. Madan, secretary, IEA, Professor Dhulasi Virundha Vardarajan, associate president, IEA, Professor Tirupati Rao, former Vice Chancellor of Osmania University and the Honorable Member of Council, ICSSR, Professor Charan Singh, Professor Taneja Ji, principals, deans, professors, academics, scholars, students. It's a matter of great honor and privilege for me that I am this way as representing ICSSR associated with this conference organized by rather the 108th annual conference of Indian Economic Association organized by Osmania University, and especially in the audience of Professor Shamika Ravi and Professor N.K. Singh and all of you. I'll just take 5 minutes to give ICSR's perspective to this and why I'm here. The theme, of course, is Viksit Bharat 2047, and our responsibility as social scientists, in what way we can contribute to making Bharat Viksit by 2047, where Bharat would, as it's projected, would have an economy of 30 trillion. But Viksit, of course, is a more holistic concept and experience. And we are in a time in the global context where globalization is, of course, is at its low. Multilateral institutions are not working. There is a tariff war. Economies are driven more and more on bilateral agreements. We are in a country, we are in a moment which provides as challenges a great impetus to India, to Bharat to become more Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. This is what the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Union Minister of Education as ICSSR, as a part of MOE, that this is the moment for us. This is a moment of great opportunity for India. Bharat's Viksit status, holistic development, is contingent on us becoming a knowledge power that we were. Knowledge power that we were. And I'm not an economist, I'm a professor of literature, I write poetry, Hindi and English. I'm not an economist. Some economists have grave concerns. They say that, well, you're bringing lots of other things to ICSSR. Kautilya's Arthashastra did not make any distinction between philosophy, anveshiki, varta, trade, agriculture, tray. When did, therefore, my submission is, of course, I totally understand, and I'm making, I must also seek or apologize because I'm in the presence of Shamika Raviji, her whole scholarship. You can see we all follow her, of course. Data extremely important. All the data that economists gave us, obviously, of the 350 million people who've come out of poverty, all the excellent studies, of course, I have great respect for that. Indian Council of Social Science Research does give priority, continues to give priority to economic research. Of course, we have one of the major minor, research schemes that has economic prosperity and development, as many of you would know. But there is an element of Indian knowledge systems here. Everybody is talking about Indian knowledge systems these days, as everybody talks about sustainability and sustainable development goals. There are 17 sustainable development. Everybody knows about this. But is the meaning of sustainability same for everybody? What is sustainability after all? Itzing, the Chinese traveler in 7th century, he said that if you have to go to India to understand India and India's knowledge, spend some time in Sumatra, Indonesia. Spend some time first in Indonesia. And so I said, and I've said it elsewhere as well, that from Samarkand to Sumatra, a knowledge sphere. That is what India is, and therefore if India becomes developed, India will become developed under the leadership that we have. It is important for social scientists, it is important for humanities, professors, scientists to contribute. And therefore this is a moment for us. I don't have much time, but as you know, as I said, that there are several, of course, initiatives that the government has taken, but social scientists should not simply study the impact of initiatives, but social scientists should steer policy, not only study the impact of policies. You've all come from all different parts of the country, from 27 states, as Dr. Madan was saying. One of the things that, of course, Kautilya says in Arthashastra is this, that for him, Artha is important, therefore his Arthashastra, wherein talks about in greater detail about whether it's taxation, whether it's village planning, whether it's town planning, whether it's infrastructure. All that is very crucial today, of course, for economic development. He says that Artha must be guided by Dharma. So we were a sustainable society. Colonialism did us, of course. The whole discourse of sustainability started in 1970s with UNESCO giving a project to a German research institution to study sustainability, because realizing that unilateral development, that mechanization and modernization, and of course the economic thought that led it or that supported it, gave fillip to it, of course there's a serious problem to it, because the developed countries had destroyed climate, and therefore climate crisis, precarity, and then it is an onus of less development, underdevelopment now to take up sustainability. So we need to think about these issues at ICSSR. I'm very happy to say in the presence of Professor Shamika Raviji that we have made great progress. So with a lot of hard work, of course with contribution to people like you who come to ICSSR and help us to achieve that. Since 1969, when ICSSR was established, just to give one data, ICSSR funded close to 9,600 research projects, out of which in the last 2.5 years, we have funded 2,600. So you can see, from 9,000 plus from 1969 to in 2.5 years, 2,500, which of course means that there's a great data that we have. We've also, I don't have much time for this, but I'll end in last 1 minute or less than that, we have collaborated now with CAG because, as economists like you said, that when there are, of course, debt liabilities globally, when there are sustainability pressures, obviously, then the fiscal health of the economy is extremely important. And therefore, the fiscal health of the economy that drives economic development at a very kind of in a micro level, obviously. In the context of MSMEs, we are going to come with a special call for projects for dedicated to MSMEs, just in almost 2 months from now. So, in collaboration with CAG, we've started, as I was mentioning to Professor Ravi, a CAG ICSSR colloquium series that started in New Delhi, but we're going to every state. You come from 27 states. We're going to do that in 28 states and 2 UTs to analyze and understand the public finances of the states and the gaps, the expenditure on the health sector. We've done one in Delhi on the health sector of Delhi. And it is our responsibility because, of course, the CAG has a wealth trove of data, of course, primary data. Now, it's very positive that now they're making it public. So if they've recently published a decadal data, the next one they're going to publish very soon, as the Deputy CAG said. We had the 15th of December, we had a colloquium in Delhi. I would also like to say, I don't know, many of you not know, we'll also disseminate, just because you are here from your states, that CAG, ICSR is also organizing for college and university students. It is important for us to listen to young minds, universities and college and university students. CAG research article writing competition. And I thought this is the moment for me to say it, because this might go to your institutions in the states. CAG research article writing competition on public finances of the states. And the expenditure, as I said, on different sectors that are crucial for economic development. Each state, the prize for each state is 1.5 lakhs, and the national level prize is 3 lakh. College and school students, college and university students are eligible to participate. What I'm trying to say here, and I'll end here, of course, that Indian Economic Association, and there are several associations, they take funding and support from ICSR, they do their conferences, and they get proceeding published in a very high, those publications, who of course then keep the price of the book very high, and they go to the university libraries. We should also think that how much is our research reaching to a common student for whom we have been paid to work. ICSR has started an initiative in publication, and we have to make our publications open access, that it reaches everybody. In this regard, I also like to say that we as ICSR, and Professor Tirupati Rao is here, my colleague and honorable member of council, that we also look up to the association to actually give their inputs to us as to what sort of research we should be doing. Give us inputs, give us ideas. When you send your reports to ICSR, say that, well, this is the discussion of overall 2 days, and research policy of ICSR, social science research policy for economic development, for interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary development with a basis substratum in economy, should have these things for India to become developed. As Professor Charan Singh was saying some time back, that giving a Korean example, I'll end with this, that we have to work really, really hard. We have to take pain if India has to become developed by 2047. And we all are, of course, important. We all have important responsibilities. Thank you so much. It's been great being here, and all the best to the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for being a great ambassador of ICSSR and sharing all your insights to the young minds here. Now it's time to invite our academic leader, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Kumar Mulguram, sir, to deliver his message on this occasion, please.
Very good afternoon, distinguished dignitaries, on the dais, off the dais, respected scholars, delegates from 28 states, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure and deep pride to warmly welcome everyone to this prestigious gathering for the 108th Annual Conference of the Indian Economic Association, hosted by the Department of Economics, Osmania University, here in Hyderabad. We are deeply honored by the presence of Dr. Shamika Ravi Garu, Conference President and member of the Economic Advisor Council to the Prime Minister, whose scholarly contributions and policy insights continue to enrich India's economic discourse. We are especially honored to welcome Sri N.K. Singh, who will deliver the inaugural address. Who delivered the inaugural address is the former chairman of the 15th Finance Commission and the president of the Institute of Economic Growth. His distinguished career at the crossroads of governance and fiscal federation and economic reform has significantly influenced contemporary public policy in India. I warmly welcome Professor Dhananjay Singh, Member Secretary of the Indian Council of Social Science Research, ICSSR, New Delhi, whose leadership has strengthened social science research and institutional capacity nationwide. I am pleased to welcome Professor D.K. Madan, Secretary of the Indian Economic Association, for his dedicated efforts in fostering and association strong academic traditions. I also extend my greetings to Professor Dulasi Brunda Varadarajan, President of the Indian Economic Association, for her academic leadership and dedication to advancing economic scholarship. My congratulations to Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy, Organizing Secretary of this conference, and Professor Ramulu, Deputy Organizing Secretary, whose dedication and meticulous planning have made this prestigious national event possible. I warmly welcome all the distinguished delegates, economists, policy makers and researchers, teachers, students who have traveled from different parts of the country to participate in this landmark conference. As just now, many, experts, spoke about various aspects. Because I am not from the economics background, but with common sense I can talk certain things. Because as a professor, yeah. So everyone focusing about, the Vikasit Bharat 2047, 30 trillion economy. So that all, the major role is, responsibility comes on the shoulders of the economics. This is my simple and this thing. So they have to put their efforts to, to contribute 60%, at least 60% towards reaching the goal of, Vikasit Bharat with 30 trillion this economy. So the economic performance in year now 25 to 27, based on the International Monetary Fund, the World Economic Outlook, what exactly identified top 5 countries. Already United States of America is in forefront, and the second one is China, and Germany is the third one. Now we are at 4th place, and 5th place Japan. So simple this thing, by 2050, 3 years, above Vikasit Bharat, I am just, as per the IMF prediction, the first one is, the China will lead, in this particular economy, and second place occupies India, crosses United States of America. So that is a great kind of, the strategic planning. The government of India is really putting their efforts maximum extent, right, by doing certain aspects. So why I am talking all these things means, India, if you look at the population, the highest population in the world, and the youth is the major strength and major resource, major productivity to the country, and less than 30 years, 60% of the youth is available, and at the same time, less than 25 years, the 50% of the youth is available. If you convert this youth towards a contribution of the productivity by imparting quality education and skill-based education, by offering internships, and by rigorously strengthening on education sector, definitely the productivity of the country in terms of exports, industrialization, and the commerce, business and trade definitely will improve with the concept given, the concept of the Honorable Prime Minister, made in India, make in India, indigenous, India. So definitely by 2047, by accelerating all these things, we definitely reach the goal of Honorable Prime Minister, and at the same time, we can see the developed country instead of developing country we are calling since the last 75 years. So in this regard, the economic leaders, the researchers, they have to play a key role and contribute, because this particular topic gives a lot many scope for the doing research, and at local level and at the same time the global level. Especially the Telangana state, now the youngest state in the country. Telangana state is youngest. Yeah. Any problem? Okay. Yeah, so Telangana state.
Yes, sit down.
Yeah, please. The Telangana state is the youngest state in the country. So Telangana state, in line with the Vikasit Bharat 2047, see, out of this 30 trillion, $1 trillion, will contribute from the Telangana state. Telangana will be number 1 by 2047. Yeah, so the young potentiality we have to utilize maximum extent. The research scope is maximum extent in the economics, because the economics area 60% will contribute in 2047. And at the same time, some of the topics just I googled, because of I have a habit of googling and AI. Based on that, I want to give a few things to you. So the behavioral economics in policy is one of the important aspects. Behavioral economics in the policy, the psychology and economics. So both the things you have to use, and you have to take the topics like the tax compliance and savings behavior and health, the health related aspect, health choice, and at the same time the other energy considerations, etc., are the 4 core areas under the behavioral economics. One should focus on the behavioral economics and policies, because the psychology of the human being is going to play a vital role in the projections. And at the same time, A and big data and big data economics, economic analysis. In this one, the real time big data, now we have to focus on forecasting the future, what you call inflation tracking, and future consumer attitude, etc., and even supply chain resilience, etc., is possible with the artificial intelligence and big data analytics. This is also one of the scope area. The third one is the digital currency and fintech. This is also another upcoming area. The student should focus on this. Lot of scope is there. So the third one is the green and sustainable economics. This is another upcoming area. So the economic models now we have to focus on climate risk and carbon printing. At the same time, circular economy also one of the another upcoming area in this green and sustainable economies. And next one is the inequality and inclusive growth models. This is very, very important, because one should take up this area in a serious manner, because the wealth should be distributed to all, that should reach to the all non-reachable places. This is one of the important aspect. And at the same time, the gender economics also one of the important aspect. The government of India is giving lot of funding towards gender equality and gender economics. And universal basic income, UBI also one of the another area. The social mobility is also another area under this inequality and inclusive growth models. The another area is development economics 2.0. So like the Robo 2.0 and all 2.0, even movies also coming. The economic new chapter is 2.0. One should focus. And globalization and reimagined is another area. Health and pandemic economics also another area, because due to pandemic, the economic levels totally fluctuated worldwide. So one should focus if something happens. Uncertainty is another kind of area. Therefore, the health and pandemic thing also one of the important aspect. So finally, the 10th one is the policy coordination. Microeconomics is another upcoming area. In this one, the gig economy is upcoming area. One should focus as a excellent research area in the economics. So with this, I request all the scholars those who are attending here, and eminent delegates from different countries, you please focus on these areas. Definitely, the India will become, the developed country, and with the help of, all these, the economic inputs given by the experts in the country and even outside country who dedicatively work 24/7 to become our dream realized. Our dream, Honorable Prime Minister and all the honorable ministers of the country and chief ministers, the India definitely will achieve 2047 Vikasit Bharat. Only thing is the 24/7, different ways, diversified ways, you have to focus on research, and this dream will come true. So with this, I compliment the organizers for taking up this excellent program, bringing this conference to the Osmania city. It's a great and proud privilege to the Osmania city. And nowadays, in the Osmania University, many programs are conducting since the last 14 months. Pin drop silence, and all our students and faculty focusing on academic side and excellent education ecosystem we created. And coming next year also 2026 we are planning around 10 international conference on different themes. And this month December we conducted 5 national and international program, and this is one of the excellent program. Really I congratulate Professor Sudhakar Reddy, and also I thank all the top personalities from the country who really shared their excellent inputs for the sake of audience. I hope the audience should take all these inputs and put your best efforts to become our country the Vikasit Bharat. Thank you one and all for your kind attention.
Truly, sir, they say that economics is the mother of social sciences, and it gets into all domains, and we had our expert from civil engineering giving a host of research topics for the scholars for the future, and his emphasis on demographic dividends. Now, with the most awaited thing, may I request the president of the session, Dr. Shamika Ravi, to deliver our inaugural address.
Ramesh.
Namaskar, good evening everyone. How many bottles of water have you had till now? I'm on 4. Also, it's because we are from Delhi and this is all wonderfully nice and warm. It's a good change. I start by thanking the IEA for inviting me to preside over the conference again this year. On behalf of the IEA, I also express our gratitude to the host organization for putting up such a great show. I welcome all the delegates. My job really is a very simple one. I'm here to show you a snapshot, as I did last year. I show you a snapshot of what research can accomplish. We are aiming for Vikasit Bharat, but it has to be one built on reason and by evidence, which is scientific. Otherwise, in the back old days, a lot of policy making was happening based on anecdotes. I feel this should happen, or this has been my personal experience, or many people, elites in particular, educated, when they traveled the world, they saw something, they wanted to do it here. Policy making now is no longer of that nature. Policy making increasingly is becoming much more evidence-based. Now, what exactly does that mean? All of you are familiar with this term, no? Evidence-based policy making. Or on occasion, of course, it is policy-based evidence making, which is a big problem. But today, can I have a clicker? How do I proceed? Somebody's there? Yeah, just go to the next. I'm going to tell you 4 short, quick stories based on the data, okay? First, I'm going to present to you, and this is all our own research, because this is public data. Any of you who's interested in any of these topics should feel free to download the data and run these analyses. These are all published work, so it is easy for you. If you do get interested, I'm happy to share the codes, etc. All right? So this is an open encouragement. First, we are going to talk about poverty. Go back, please. Then we are going to talk about, there are some structural problems that we are dealing with in India, which is not like many other countries. particularly from the labor market perspective. We will talk about that. Third is, how is growth distributed? And here I'm going to introduce to you new kinds of data. Today, we have more data than ever. Today, the problem is not of not having data. Today, the problem is we don't have enough data scientists. Because data is crude oil. What are you going to do with crude oil? You need to process it. Who will process this kind of data? It's the data scientists, the economists, because you are uniquely trained in econometrics. Right? So I'm going to present to you some new kinds of data, which is satellite data. Satellite data, now imagine, no survey, so it's not dependent on your mood, how you respond. This is satellite imagery. How much is actually getting built? What is the height of the building? What is the frequency with which movement is happening? 10 meter into 10 meter. Can you imagine the high resolution? ISRO has the wherewithal to give us this kind of data. So now when we are saying we are going to urbanize in a planned manner, you can imagine spatial data, how important it's going to be. And the fourth story I'm going to talk to you, which is it's a very interesting one, but not something that most people are familiar with. It's called narrative economics, why it's important to tell stories. And why telling story is partly the job of scholars. You're going to tell us how are things, how should things be. All right, next. So let's start by the poverty data. You are all familiar with the multidimensional poverty. So we did not have consumption data for 10 years. So we said, okay, let us look at what is the situation as far as multidimensional poverty is concerned, which means what is your access to education, health, housing. These are amenity based. Okay, this is a supply side story. So if I can give better schooling, the government can give better healthcare, the government can improve the quality of housing, water, sanitation, etc., multidimensional poverty will fall. Correct? But what is traditional? And this is a room where this should be very easily appreciated. Traditionally, poverty is not about amenities. Traditionally, our poverty metrics are dealt in what way? Consumption expenditure. How much do you actually consume? And we look at that from the NSS, National Sample Survey, right? Tendulkar poverty line is what you're most familiar with. It started with destitution. How many people in India cannot afford food, which is required for a proper sustenance of a person of a certain age? Adult female, adult male, etc. But that is too low. That was the debate 10-15 years back when it became very political, saying, what is this? This is too low. We came out with a new metric under Rangarajan called the Rangarajan poverty line. So please understand, Rangarajan poverty line is not just about food and destitution. It includes food, it includes clothing, it includes travel, meaning conveyance, rental, health and education. So you understand it's a moderate poverty basket. And I'm going to talk to you about what has happened to moderate poverty in India in the last 12 years, since when we had the last data and the latest data. Please appreciate, those are the numbers as of what does poverty line, therefore, by the Rangarajan committee, what does it mean today? It's around 11,500 or so for a family of 4. All right, next. This is how India is looking. Our poverty rate 12 years back was 29.5. Do you see how high the poverty was? As of the latest number, in 12 years, the poverty is down to less than 4%. It's 3.9. Do you realize that these are, by the way, all the states, all the district, NSS regions? Do you see that the decline in poverty is not an urban story? It's not a story of West India or South India. It's a pan-India story. Do you all see that poverty reduction in India is a all-India story? Next. We can do something more because the NSS data is so cool, you can actually look at who in the household is consuming how much. Typically we say, okay, if it's a family of 10,000 and you have 4 people in the family, everybody is getting 2,500, right? But you all know that is too simplistic. Everybody does not get 2,500. Different people within the household have different share, right? That is where now you begin to look at, and traditionally in economics, intra-household allocation, empowerment, how do you negotiate, those kind of literature, correct? We are able to do that because the NSS data actually tells you very detailed information on clothing, sari, dhoti, blouses, skirt. Now, do you realize that the nature of the clothing data is assignable to individuals in the household? Meaning not individuals, adult male, adult female, children. So now we can talk about what is happening to poverty of adult men, adult women and children separately. See, data can be very cool because eventually policy has to derive based on some scientific evidence that when we say that we want to focus on women as the recipient or beneficiary of government policy, we focus on women a lot. There is rationale for it. But the outcome of that is telling you the first column is overall poverty, and you're seeing it has fallen. That was the last graph. The second column is adult men. Do you see the second column, adult male poverty? Well, it's turning blue except in some patches of East and Central India where it remains. Adult poverty amongst male is still there. But look at the third column. What do you see? That is adult female poverty. India has eradicated adult female poverty. It is less than 2%. And then you have children. For children, we still do have some amount in certain regions. Okay, next. It's a large country, it's an electoral democracy. People are also interested in seeing how are different segments gaining. Are Hindus gaining more than Muslims? Urban and rural and tribal and so on and so forth. This data allows you to see the decline is almost equivalent for Hindu households, for Muslim households, for tribal households. For those of you who remember, 10 years back, we used to study urban poverty of Muslim households in particular. Those have been the biggest declines. It is close to 40%. All India was 30, right? Muslim urban households was 40. Now it is around 5 to 6%. Similarly, tribal households, tribal poverty was 50%. Now it is down to around 8 or 9%. This is important because you have to see that growth and poverty eradication is for everybody. Next. This is telling you across different segments, social groups. Next. These are across all the states of the country. You can actually measure now how many people have come out of poverty. And that number is 302 million people. Now imagine what it means. In 12 years, India has brought 302 million people out of poverty. It's largely on the back of the fact that we have had economic growth. So we do have resources. But secondly, how those resources are distributed, right? Which is a lot of the redistribution policies of the government. Next, again, every state has done it. So that's why it is a fascinating story. There is also a concept in development economics called poverty gap. That yes, you are poor, but how poor? So what is the gap? That is a measure of intensity of poverty. Earlier, a poor person was around 30% below poverty line. That number has also improved. Of the 3.5% that are poor, they are very close to the poverty line. It's barely 10%, which means with a little bit more effort, you are going to eradicate poverty entirely. Next. This is asset ownership. And these are all based on published works, so I encourage you to download and read them. You know the asset ownership of the poorest 20% in the economy. We are interested in overall asset ownership. Like, do you own motor vehicles? Do you own refrigerator? What kind of assets and durables you own? The bottom 20%, only 4% had some kind of automobiles 12 years back. You know what that number is today? Bottom 20, mind you. 40%. 40% of the poorest 20% Indians own some kind of motorized vehicle. Must be scooters, bikes, jeeps, etc. But are you seeing what a big shift this is? These are changes that are happening very rapidly on the back of economic growth. It's an all India story. Every state, rural and urban, ownership of assets is expanding very rapidly. Next. I'm going to talk now about some uncomfortable things, because if not you, then who? To appreciate these problems. Next. People talk about unemployment and labor force participation interchangeably, but you do know they are different. Labor force participation is people in the working age when they are either working or they are looking for work. So that means they are actively participating in the labor force. We have a unique problem in India. Our labor force participation rate is actually quite low. China for around 40 years had 75% labor force participation, meaning people of the working age, 3/4 of them were either working or looking for work. Vietnam, again, 72-73%. Bangladesh had above 60%. We have still not reached 60. So it's a unique problem where almost 40% of the population is neither working nor looking for work. I want you to now think about it. These are structural problems. Yes, women's labor force is a part of that problem. But what has happened in the last 10 years? In rural areas of India, women's labor force participation has risen by 70%. So it's no longer a rural problem. Women's labor force participation is an urban India problem. Now this is where the girls are studying more than ever. This is when they're working hard, doing well in 10th, in 12th. Here what is happening during labor force? That is when you have to understand that economics is not about increase your labor force participation of women. Many multilateral institutions come and lecture us. India must increase female labor force participation, and my response to them always is, show me the switch. These are outcomes of institutional arrangements. Women not working in urban areas is symptomatic of something deeper. Okay? India is urbanizing very fast, India is nuclearizing very fast. And children are very labor intensive. As a result of which, urban India's fertility rate fell below replacement rate 25 years back, not today. For the last 25 years, urban India replacement rate, it's below that fertility-wise. Means young women do not want to have children. But that's a crisis. Because we have still not, because we just come out poverty, no? We're not a rich nation that can then say, we are so rich that we'll open our floodgates and migrants will come and we'll get workers. None of the Asian tigers, the examples that Mr. Singh told us about, none of them have managed to reverse this declining fertility. In fact, the size of Japanese population will be the same in 10 years that it was during the First World War. They are shrinking. China's biggest problem today is they are going to grow old. They have become old before becoming rich. Now, where does labor? People build nations. Let's be very clear. Yes, we can do technology, we can do multiple things, but people build nations. You need people. So if the fertility is going to decline much faster than anticipated and your dependent population is going to become bigger and bigger, we already have 120 million people above the age of 60. How are we going to take care of them? Children are getting fewer and fewer. That pyramid is going to reverse very soon. If we don't have enough people to work, how will we take care of the elderly? Who will pay for them? Please understand, this is the reason why in Japan an 80-year-old still works. This is the reason why in many parts of the developed world, the idea that I'll grow old and I'll live a retired life on pension, it's not a reality anymore. People are working till 80s and 90s because they have to. So understand that these are long-term structural problems we are talking about. Now, what is the policy recommendation there? Make it easy for women. Right? Of course, your family structure is breaking down. There are no joint families anymore. But you told us that it takes a village to raise a child. Where is the village? There is no village. There is no joint family. It's a young couple with a child. So the woman has to step back. Now, economically, there is a quick fix. I can assign a shadow wage. And I say, well, as per a shadow wage, given the amount of time women are taking care of someone, which is around 4 to 5 hours per day, that is around 17% of India's GDP. So chalo, we'll now increase our GDP because it is value creation. That work is happening. Somebody is taking care of you. But that is just a statistical fix. The problem is what goes into the GDP? Only traded, marketed activities. So if I go to his house and work, and his wife, suppose, comes to my house and works, our GDP will double. Now, I want you to understand that economically, and you're all laughing because you understand the ridiculousness of it, but it has real implications. If you don't value certain activities, you are going to discount it. Which is why increasingly you will hear the government talk about care economy. We have to make it easier, less costly for women to take care of not just children but also the elderly. All right, so women's labor force participation is important. Second is unemployment rate. You should not look at India's unemployment rate. That is not the story. That story as per metrics is now what? 3.5–4%. The real story is if you look at unemployment rate across states of India. And then you see that Gujarat has unemployment rate of 0.9%. Karnataka has 1.5%. Kerala has nearly 13%. So what is happening? Why is our most developed state with the highest unemployment rate? Do you see now how the trade-offs are happening? Next, this tells us that states which are becoming business friendly also have low unemployment rate. Meaning job creation is an outcome of wealth creation. When you have businesses, when you have growth of businesses, when you have economic growth, you will have jobs. It's a fallacy to think that government jobs is the way to grow. And this is a serious problem in some of our states. People are spending their entire 20s taking exams, which is not productive in the sense, how does the market value? You can take the exam for 10 years, but you don't get in. The new employer is not going to say, oh, you took exams, so now I will pay you more. It's not an intrinsically skill, no? Taking exam is not a skill. It's skill only if you get in. Next. This is a struggle. There is youth inactivity globally, but in India we have youth inactivity in every state, which means look at the unemployment rate of people above the age of 30. It's barely anything. It's the grey bars on the right. And look at the red bars. That is unemployment rate of people below 30, meaning 18 to 29. People in the age group 18 to 29 are almost 5 times more unemployed than people above the age of 30. So what is happening at the age of 30 that suddenly everybody is working? Do you all realize? This is a structural problem. Young people don't want to settle into a job. They are looking for the right job. Hold that thought. Next. These are all young people in this graph, but now I'm going to compare of all the young people, the unemployment rate of people who are graduates and above, which means everybody in this room. Graduates and above are 4 times more unemployed than school education people, youngsters who have only got school education. So if you are less educated, you are working. The more educated you are, you are likely to be sitting at home. Now, this puts all labor economics on its head. Because we were taught that you better study hard if you want a good job. If you study hard, you will get a good job, no? This is not the case anymore. The more you are studying, the more likely you are to be waiting for the right job. This is a structural problem because it is telling us there is a gap between skill and degree. You have the degree, but the market only values skill. Market is not going to pay for your degree. The market will pay for the actual skill, the work that you are able to do. Which is why Skill India, which is why we are putting so much effort into making national education policy skill-oriented. Right at the young age, let the kids do the kind of work which actually leads to creation of value. All right? There is something else. This is expectations also. Managing expectations is important. In some of our states in India, there is a unnatural sort of a attraction for government jobs. There was a natural experiment in Tamil Nadu. The natural experiment, which was published in Journal of Public Economics, you know what they said? For 4 years, there was no recruitment. They stopped the recruitment in the State Public Commission. And then they compared the lifelong earnings of those after those 4 years, the cohort with the others. You know what they found? That people who had spent more than X number of years preparing for exams, but not getting in, because most people will not get in. Government jobs, even if I make it 10 times the number, it's still very few jobs compared to the number of people who are taking the exams. Those who don't get in, their lifelong earnings are less than people who never appeared for those exams. Now imagine the attrition. Imagine the loss of the most productive years of your life when you should be picking up real skills. This is a problem. We have to, this distortion of wanting government job at the expense of doing something creative or in the market is a problem. Next, these are now spatial data. I just want to encourage the youngsters. This is fantastic data, okay? 10 meter into 10 meter. You can measure a lot of things. This is Calcutta, by the way. Next. These are the growth rates of 2015 to 20 with post-20. You see now growth has picked up. Next. The redder the parts, the higher the growth rate. Do you see what is happening? That redness is growing across the country. Which means growth is no longer concentrated in some segments of the country. In fact, the more red, look areas where it is. Rajasthan, UP, parts of Tamil Nadu, South Andhra, Northeast. Growth is becoming more and more distributed, which means it is far more inclusive geographically. Every part of India is seeing improvement in terms of growth. Next. This is the last story. I'll take a minute. Narrative economics. I encourage you read the book by Robert Schiller. Next. Okay, why is narrative economics important? Because stories eventually lead to a lot of convictions. Okay, people live by stories. Those who control stories will eventually control the way things are run in the universe. This is big data. This is large data, meaning hundreds of millions of data points. This is open source Google data. It's called GDET. And this is all newspapers of the world, all media of the world, all radios, everything that is on Google is in this data. And it picks up something called tone of the coverage. How is the news about a certain country? I'm interested in countries. The world in this analysis begins at the beginning of the pandemic. So at the beginning of the pandemic, all these 5 countries that I'm studying India, China, I study Sweden because that was the only country which did not do a lockdown, remember? US and Germany, big countries, okay? What you notice is in the beginning of the pandemic, all these countries are getting negative coverage, and then that makes sense because media's job is to talk about problems. So it's all negative. It's anywhere between minus 1.5 and minus 2.5. And then what happens within 6 months of the pandemic? The democracies of the world continue getting negative coverage. In fact, that purple big decline that you see, that is Donald Trump's that is election campaign, how negatively the world was talking about the US elections. What is the lesson here? Look at China. China is the top red graph. The global coverage, this is not Chinese media, the global coverage on China is now positive. This does not happen in free, fair open societies. These are campaigns. These are campaigns that are actively funded and financed and expanded. Why do we say that? Next, because data is wonderful. It also tells you the source of these narratives. And what does the source of the narrative tell you? That the most negative news on India, that is the bottom black line, are the same places from where the most positive news on China come. It's absurd, but that's the beauty of data. You see, you can do a lot. You can do a lot with data. Stories are getting planted. A lot of our institutions will come under attack. That is part of the narrative. So narrative economics is no longer confined to corporate finance, where you said stories about your rivals and yourself. That was a limited. Today, narrative economics is determining geoeconomics. It determines whether investments will come into India. This is the rape capital of the world. It's a very majoritarian society. These kind of stories, when most of you are wondering where is this coming from, because our lived reality is not like this, the stories are driven. They're narratives that are campaigns that are getting rolled out. Okay? So it's important to also look at research but understand what goes behind the research. So there's tons of stuff that economists can look at. I've given you 4 separate stories. But I do encourage you to go to the Economic Advisory Council website and download papers that you're interested in, and write to me if there's anything in particular that excites you. I'll be happy to help you. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
I think it deserves a standing ovation for that wonderful message that she has delivered here. Things that truly data-driven kind of reasoning. And when we mindlessly see students pursuing one master course of the other without improving their skills, I think she has nailed it by saying about whether the educated are more employed or the uneducated there. Thank you so much, ma'am, for spending your time and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Truly, we are blessed to listen to all your insights there. And as we come to the end of all the speeches there, we have some more book releases to be done. Thank you for being a wonderful audience and bearing with us for this wonderful thing there. I won't call it bearing, I think it's more about learning and adding value to ourselves. May I request the dignitaries on the dais to release some more books that are there. The second book, first we've already released there. The second one is on urban planning and economic development in India, Vision for 2050. By Professor Sudhakar Reddy and Dr. Mallikarjun Nayak. If the other author also is there, to come over, the author as well. The book examines the interlinkages between urban planning and economic growth in India. It highlights challenges of urbanization, infrastructure, housing, and governance, and proposes a strategic framework for sustainable, inclusive, and resilient cities to support India's long-term development goals up to 2050. Yeah, this is Mallikarjun here. The other author with Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy. Organizers, get ready for the third book. The book is The New Era of Global Trade, Tariff Wars, Geopolitics, and India's Strategic Response. This book as well is by Professor B. Sudhakar Reddy and Dr. Mallikarjun Nayak. Now, this book analyzes contemporary shifts in global trade marked by tariff wars and geopolitical tensions. It evaluates their implications for India's economy and outlines strategic policy responses to strengthen trade resilience, enhance competitiveness, and position India effectively within evolving global value chains. Yeah, come there. Yeah, that would be a great privilege to stand next to Shamika ma'am. Very quickly on the fourth book, the book is on sustainable power, sustainable progress, renewable energy, and economic change in Telangana. The authors of this book are Dr. Govardhan Reddy Lankala and Dr. Mallikarjuna Nayak. If Dr. Govardhan Reddy Lankala is there, kindly come over to the dais. The other author? Yeah. This book is something which explores Telangana's renewable energy transition and its economic implications. It assesses policy initiatives, investment trends, and employment potential, highlighting how clean energy can drive sustainable growth, reduce environmental stress, and support climate resilient development at the state level. Okay, we did have quite many books, and the last book for the day, ma'am did speak about empowerment of women there. So this book is on status of women entrepreneurs in India with special reference to Telangana state, and this is written by and authored by Dr. Ramesh Tejawat. Dr. Ramesh Tejawat, if you're there, be around. Yeah, let him stand, he won't stand. This book provides an empirical assessment of women entrepreneurship in India with focused analysis of Telangana. It examines access to finance, market skills, and institutional support, and offers policy recommendations to strengthen women-led enterprises as drivers of inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Congratulations to all the authors, and great thanks to all the members on the dais with your patience with which you have done the book release. Memorable even for sure. Now very quickly we get into the felicitation of all our dignitaries on the dais. To begin with, first we do it to Ma'am Shamika Naik ma'am. May I request Kamaljeet Kaur ma'am and Harsh Gandhar sir to come over to the dais please, to join the felicitation party here. First to Shamika ma'am. May I request Anirban Sarkar sir and Sanjeev Kumar sir to come over please. Anirban Sarkar and Sanjeev Kumar sir to do the honors to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Kumar Molgoram sir. VC sir, yeah.
So then
Dalanjit Singh as well, please. Quickly. We are running short of time. Shamika ma'am, we pray that you don't miss out the flight there. Safe travels. Dhananjay sir, kindly permit us to do the honors there. Dr. Samadan and Vice Chancellor sir. Yeah. This brings us to a magnificent inaugural to a close, to invite Professor M. Ramlu sir, Deputy Local Organizing Secretary, to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Good evening, all of you. This is the last event of the inaugural function. Afterwards, plenary session is there. Respected Kumar Mulgaram sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, respected Shamika Ravi ma'am, Dhananjay Singh ma'am, sir, and N.K. Singh, Dulasi Brinda Varadarajan, D.K. Madan sir, and Srinivasamurthy, Sudhakar Reddy sir, and Tirupati former Vice Chancellor at the toughest time. There is Tirupati Rao sir, G. Ramakrishna sir, and Mahendra Reddy sir, Shiva Reddy sir, other eminent economists and paper writers and plenary session talkers and speakers, other aspects. It is a pleasure to me extend my vote of thanks on behalf of the Department of Economics and IEA. Generally, our Honorable Vice Chancellor expressed my side and department side, sir, heartfelt thanks and congratulations to you, sir. Actually, your dynamic and visionary leadership, as well as committed hard work and support of our department, we succeeded in all aspects, sir. Particularly, you are your engineering graduate, but all covered economic side, mean engineering and economics a very close relation. That's showing that, sir, definitely, sir, your footwork will travel, sir, no problem. And respected Shamika Ravi member, Economic Council of Advisors to the Prime Minister. Madam, I am very much thankful and sincere thanks to you gracing this occasion, sharing your invaluable sights, your presence of the elevated significance of this conference presence. Madam, you are really touched so many things, really you talk changes our young minds to think the new process line. Your growth side, demographic side, all processing aspects you taught, madam, our young minds definitely, they got very rich data, and that also is you are also enlightened that data is plenty is available. How you are processing is the more important. How derive the real conclusion to policy makers, that really, madam, this is a wonderful talk, madam. Really, our people are enjoying a lot in the good evening. One more, N.K. Singh, Chairman, 15th Finance Commission Chairman, you talked about all angles of the economic side and in the inaugural ceremony. Really, we are very thankful to him, sir. As Professor Dhananjay Singh, Member Secretary ICSR, really your talk also, even your literature side, but you are touched with all the economic lines, with including the literature aspects. Thank you very much, sir. As well as D.K. Madan sir, really, and since 3 days I am observing that Madan sir, he is observing every keen of everything point, nook and corner, every point. Really, we learned from you, sir. You are taking how much care the young generation should learn from you, sir. Really excellent support to our organizing, all aspects of the things also. One of the important Srinivasamurthy sir also, I am very much thankful to, sir. Not only your insightful talk, other logistic support, sir. Without your support, this much of the success of this program may not be possible. That's why we are very much thankful to you, sir, that our logistics future also, we are hoping that you are extending the same logistics support to our future conferences. And for that, main important, my beloved friend Sudhakar Reddy, without his take care of all these things, it may not be possible to success. Really very much thankful to you from IEA as well as the department side, sir. We hope that future also same type of conferences will bring it out, definitely with all people who do very successfully, sir, that I am hoping that. Now one more important, that means our beloved former Vice Chancellor Tirupati Rao sir and Mahendra Reddy sir, Shiva Reddy sir, Ramakrishna sir, all the eminent personalities, sir, since beginning, they are interestingly, keenly observing this, sir. Very much thankful to you, sir. Your presence will make the difference of these conferences. In future also, we are hoping that your support is available. And last, I can further extend the last, my all paper writers, all delegates, all the students, and all volunteers who are tirelessly doing the effort for success of this conference. Definitely, sir, their effort and contribution will be a wonderful job since 3 days, 4 days, 1 week. That means I am very much thankful to the behalf of the department, as well as I am hoping that in the next also, afterwards also, plenary sessions are there. Definitely, as well, along with the dinner, that also important, brain dinner also available, sir, after the plenary, through plenary session. I am hoping that all should come there and participate and enjoy your evening time with getting some more knowledge. Once again, last, I am thankful to you one and all, off the dais, on the dais. Good day, good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ramdu sir. We break for tea and the plenary sessions will begin.
Just a minute, one announcement. Firstly, I am very much thankful to our Vice Chancellor Osmania University and Member Secretary ICSSR for supporting this conference. I am really very much thankful from on behalf of IEA. Secondly, we are very much late and I request to all of you to take tea. Within 15 minutes, we will start our next P.R. Brahmananda lecture that is to be delivered by our former Finance Secretary. We will start that session at 6:10 exactly. Thank you.